All right. Hello, folks, and welcome to this tornado outbreak short summary. Again, just like in the January 67 event, apologize for a raspy, coarse, or hoarse voice. This is the last of the trio that I'm recording back to back to back. I haven't talked for this extensive period of time for the most part in a fair bit. Um, before I was just doing these things en masse, which was a pain in the ass, so I decided to not do that. However, with all of these videos piling up on me, I don't like it, so you know what, why just not tackle them all at the same time? Because I got them all done. Anyway, this is the tornado outbreak of February 21st to the 22nd of 1971. With a surprisingly large amount of information on this outbreak, to be honest, there is one source that is just absolutely phenomenal for this event. I truly mean that. Like, just straight up, probably the best source that I've seen for nearly any tornado outbreak, especially this early in uh, tornado records, is really really cool. But that out of the way, I'll stop geeking out. First off, some background is that surface maps, that's what SFC stands for, SFC stands for surface, had failed to indicate a significant low pressure, that's L, or a significant boundary line for thunderstorm creation. This was obviously not the case as I'm talking about a tornado outbreak right now. And from digitalized surface analyses, we found this: two separate low pressures connected, one to the south of Oklahoma City, one right in the middle of the Arkansas-Louisiana border, connected by an occluded front, one producing a stationary front, both having a cold front, and then a weird ass warm front that, as you may be able to see or may not, the lines are really thin, so I don't know how well they'll show up on a phone. Sorry about that. But just know also that tornado watches had already been issued as early as 9:55. Does Mississippi use Central? I think Mississippi uses Central Daylight Time. Speaking of tornadoes, there would be 19 confirmed tornadoes, with 3 of them being violent. I said this in the past 2 videos. You can have a percentage of a tornado that's violent be violent, and the whole track be labeled as a violent tornado, which is technically correct because you go based on the highest rating. But whatever, whatever. For the sake of whole numbers and my saneness, 16% of the tornadoes were violent. I think that's rounded up from like 15.6. I don't know, man. This event would sadly cause the deaths of 123 people and injure 1,600 more people, causing $45 million in damage, which is close to like 300 million in today's money. All monetary amounts are in 1971 US dollars, just like with all of the events. So in 67, that was 67 US dollars, and that was 1956 US dollars for the 1956 event. So we start with our first notable, which of course happens to be the county landing Louisiana to Schlater, Mississippi F5. This may also be known to you as the Delhi F5 or the Schlater F5 or the Inverness F5. However you will, just note that they are generally the same tornado. With a trek of approximately 176 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, more than 200 miles, this tornado had a path of 450 meters wide, killing 47 and injuring 520. This tornado was, first of all, most likely a family, with the F5 portion happening in Louisiana and the F4 portion happening in Mississippi. Either way, most likely broken up around the Mississippi River. The F5 portion still only happened in Louisiana, and this makes this tornado the only F5 or EF5 in Louisianiite, in Gator history, in Louisianian history. I'll say that. I'm sorry. Note that in Louisiana and around Delhi, power lines were straight up ripped from the ground, and to be honest, that was kind of the only amount of damage that I found in Louisiana, with purportedly, I would assume, numerous homes being destroyed around Delhi. A new tornado possibly happened around Sharkey County, which is one of the funniest town names to me. Haha, sharks. I like sharks. And this would be the presumably the F4, where either happening or actually, sorry, backtrack. Sharkey County is right before the Mississippi River here in Louisiana. So, if there was a new tornado after this, what would at this point be a short-lived F5, then this new tornado would destroy forests for the remainder of its path in Louisiana before either crossing the Mississippi or recycling around the Mississippi and then forming an F4 near Delta City, where in Delta City and also in Inverness, that's a mouthful, there would be total destruction. Both of our pictures here are from Inverness, with, as you can see, tens, hundreds of homes being completely destroyed. This F5 is also the only F5 or EF5 to ever happen in February. Also, I didn't write this down. Originally, Dr. Grazoulis debated the strength of this tornado, rating it F4 twice in two separate books. However, in what I think it was 2001 or 2003, Dr. Grazoulis went back to saying that yes, the portion in Louisiana was indeed F5. So it was debated by Dr. Grazoulis and is not anymore. People can change their minds. Wow. The second notable here, a very powerful one as well, went from New Fittler, Mississippi to west southwest of Poor, Tennessee. This F4 tracked an extremely impressive, although definitely not true, 325.2 kilometers, reaching in, yeah, sure, at 90 meters wide, around 100 yards wide, I think, so a football field wide. Probably not true either. This tornado killed 58 and injured anywhere from 700 all the way to 800 people. First of all, in this little trio of tornadoes here, it is this middle one, the one that hit Cary and almost hit Belzoni and hit Pugue City, Morgan City, Teletoba, Abbeville, Oxford. So, straight up, this is a tornado family. This is not a tornado nearing the tri-state tornadoes record. This tornado up here was indeed another tornado, not the same one with a huge gap, because that huge gap would mean a separate tornado. And there are no documents of tornadoes happening here either. Kind of. I'll explain that in just a little bit here. So just know that this is a total of 325 kilometers, not one very long tornado, although that can still happen. Say with the Gwyn F5 in 1974, reaching 218 kilometers? In any case, apologies for that, I'm rambling. This tornado would destroy around a dozen homes, nearly all of which are seen here in Pugue City, with some pretty good wind rowing going on here as well. Near around Avalon County, which is somewhere along this path. Where so? I have no idea. Please don't ask. There are possibly new tornadoes, however, they are not documented, and this is listed as a continuous path. We do know for sure this F4 lifted near Abbeville, and then there's another touchdown between Canaan and Walnut. Yes, all three of those towns are names, just like Inverness and Belzoni and Little Yazoo. There's so many weird town names, man. I'm sorry. What we do know, this second confirmed tornado produced F3 damage in Tennessee, and the F4 tornado here paralleled the Inverness F5 for approximately, I think it was 70, 75, 79 miles, which translates into roughly 107 kilometers. Now, this isn't listed on literally anywhere you go to. This was done by my own investigation. What I did is I literally drew a straight line from from New Fittler to Slater. I drew a straight line from there to there on a little like geography website. I'm sorry, I completely forgot what it was called, and it was 107 kilometers. So that's the number that I'm using here. Apologies about that. Okay, on to more definitive things. Why not? Our third notable went from the south-southeast of Bovina. Of course, another weird town name. I'm so sorry, Mississippi. You got to get your town name straight. To Jones Crossing, Mississippi. This F4 had a track of roughly 110 kilometers, reaching in at apparently only 30 meters wide. That is debatable to me. With a death toll of 13, this tornado would also go on to injure 182 people. This tornado was known to have flattened homes and barns in Bovina. However, I only found a picture of Little Yazoo, which would have been great if I had one that was colored. However, I believe it was Tornado Talk that had the colored photograph, and due to them not wanting images to be copied or making me unable to, I did just snip a photo in the January 67 event, but I'm rambling because I don't like their decision. Anyways, 12 homes pictured here in Little Yazoo would be destroyed before, for most of the rest of this tornado's life, it would journey through forest. Our fourth notable went from the northwest of Fayetteville to the south-southwest of Sharp Point, North Carolina. This F3 trekked around 138 kilometers, reaching in at roughly 500 meters wide, which is roughly 550 yards, I think. Killing 2, injuring anywhere from 60 to 65, 64, I think was the most common number. Well, I saw 60 as well, and I also saw 65, and causing an estimated $2.75 million in damage. This tornado at first had a 32-kilometer stretch of continuous path, and then had a sporadic amount of damage path for the rest of its life, indicating either you did have numerous small tornadoes, or you had a tornado that varied wildly in its strength. Either one works for me. Hopefully it wasn't a bunch of numerous tornadoes. What we do know, 40 homes would be destroyed at borderline F4 damage, with 325 more homes being damaged. Oops, I went back there. My mistake. In fact, most of this damage occurred just in Fayetteville, with nearly most of the rest of the path happening around forested and rural areas. And that, folks, is our last notable here. Despite this being February, and February generally being more well known for tornadic events, this is still pretty early in the season, folks, right? Like, don't get me wrong. January? Hell nah. Tornadoes don't really happen in January. February? To be honest, overall, tornadoes don't really happen in February either. Just that, you know, the conditions and weather varies much more wildly in February than it does January, which is why you tend to see February events be more notable although the rare January event is still notable for it being rare. Note that Shreveport's NWS, it's the that station had a WSR 57, and it detected the hook echo that was producing the F5 in Delhi, Louisiana, which is pretty impressive. That is definitely a achievement for a WSR 57. Those things, first of all, are in black and white. They do not have much range. Their image quality is grainy at best, and you really need a true distinction to be able to see. If you look up WSR 57 hook echo, you will only see clearly defined hook echoes that you would look at any radar on and go, oh yeah, that's a hook echo. Compared to nowadays with the WSR 88Ds and the dual rad in the next pulse, all of those combined probably. Like was it dual pole next rad? I think where you can visual or you can change what you scan and find velocities rather than just having to go off of just hook echoes and everything that comes back to you. You can look at winds now. That's crazy. Technology's crazy, y'all. However, this event is something that I really want to drive home here. This event proved that the watch and warning system, still in use today, is effective. This watch warning system in 1971 was only 6 years old. It was invented, the watch warning system was redesigned after the 1965 Palm Sunday tornado outbreak, okay? And it is proving its worth here, which is amazing to see. There was citizens were surveyed and they found it to be clear and concise. They knew the difference between the watch and the warning compared to just a forecast and then a warning, because there were still like kind of watches before then. It's weird and I don't want to know about it. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't want to know about it. What we also know is that between NWSs and also overall, there is excellent dissemination. That means outputting of information. Information was timely, advanced warnings. Almost practically everything that you would see today going on happened here in 1971, which is awesome. This is perfect. This is excellent. This event is so good because not only is it so well documented, but it's proving everything works, which is so good to see. I'm happy about this. But what they did find, however, unfortunately, ending off on a bad note here, was that many people, after a survey, found a lack of storm shelters and cellars in the region. This was mostly in the Deep South region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. You would think, in my opinion, you would think that storm shelters and cellars, more so I guess above ground ones, made of concrete, would be really helpful in, I don't know, a hurricane maybe? I don't know. The Gulf Coast and New English and the southern coast is, sorry, not the New English, the 13 colonies coast, you can say, is affected by two of the most impactful weather events you could ever think of: hurricanes and tornadoes. Sometimes around the same time. In fact, tornadoes produce hurricanes. Sorry, hurricanes produce tornadoes a lot. Mixed it up on accident there. Hurricanes produce tornadoes a lot. Not violent ones, not an F5, not as far as I know, but still, you would think that shelters would be very helpful for hurricanes, the same they would be for tornadoes. Granted, you want to be more so underground with tornadoes in a truly. However, a purely concrete, sturdily built storm shelter for a tornado should work fine as well. If you have a steel door, excellent. So this lack of shelters is proved to actually be very crucial and very unfortunate. However, again, with everything else here is perfect. It's just the lack of storm shelters and cellars. Even ditches next to roads help, which is why you may hear on the Weather Channel to do that, to go jump in a ditch with your hands over your head, if you're caught on the highway. So, unfortunately, ending off on a bad note, I don't like to do that, and I definitely should have switched these around, but that is where I'm going to end on the February 1971 tornadic event. I hope that you all learned something from this video just as much as I did researching it. This was very pleasant to research, as there was a whole book that was scanned into a PDF that I found that is like the main source for nearly everything, for most of everything in this video, and that will be in the description of this video. And I thank you all so much for watching. Now, see you, even though it may be a longer time in between videos, in the next one. Again, I thank you all for watching.